Hearing those words alone threw Frank into deep confusion. His heart began to race, his hands trembled, and his mind completely shut down. He could no longer concentrate on the business deal he had traveled for. Before he could ask a single question or say a word in his defense, Ijeoma ended the call. That same moment, she packed her belongings at those of the children and left the house. Ejiro, on the other hand, felt victorious. She was happy. She felt she had finally removed the obstacle standing between her and her brother. She celebrated the wife's departure openly. She danced, drank, and rejoiced, convinced that she now had her brother to herself again. Frank took the next available flight early the following morning. He rushed home, hoping he could still see his wife, hoping he could explain, apologize, or at least look into her eyes. But when he arrived, the house was already empty. His wife and children were gone. The home that was once lively, noisy and warm was now silent and cold. Frank stood in the middle of the sitting room, staring at nothing. He collapsed into a chair, overwhelmed by guilt and regret. Deep down, he knew this was not just about one towel or one incident. It was the result of years of silence, neglect, and failure to protect his marriage. Suddenly, rage filled him. He stood up and stormed towards Ejiro's room. He banged loudly on her door, shouting, demanding to know what had happened to his wife. Ejiro opened the door with a smile on her face and calmly said, "She has finally left. She can no longer come between us. You don't need to worry. She's gone for good." That moment broke Frank completely. He struggled to control himself so he would not hit her. With a shaking voice, he told her to pack her bags and leave his house immediately. He did not care where she went. All he could think about was how he had failed to defend his wife. Ejiro stood there in disbelief. She rushed back into her room, picked up her phone and called their parents. She put the call on speaker and began crying loudly, accusing Frank of sending her away. When their parents heard, they asked what had happened. Ejiro claimed Frank's wife had left with the children and was blaming everything on her. The parents were silent. They already knew Ejiro had been troublesome. They called Frank several times, but he did not answer. That afternoon, Frank could not eat. He could not sleep. He drank heavily, trying to numb the pain, but nothing worked. His entire world had crashed. He wondered how he would face his wife again, how he would convince her to return, and how he would forgive himself for letting things get so bad. Ejiro was not forcefully thrown out, but everything changed. Frank stopped speaking to her. Even when she tried to start conversations, he remained silent. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. 4 months passed. Frank sent people to locate Ijeoma because she refused to reveal her location. When they finally found her, he went to see her, but she refused to see him. He sent friends, family members, and even her own relatives to plead on his behalf. But she refused every attempt. Her mind was made up. She explained that the issue was not just Ejiro. It was Frank's inability to stand up for her. She also blamed herself for enduring the disrespect for 10 long years. Ejiro noticed how miserable her brother had become. Guilt slowly crept in. She tried to talk to him, but Frank refused to listen. She became afraid. Frank eventually decided to make peace with himself. He forgave his sister, but their relationship was never the same. He still supported her financially and bought her gifts, but he was distant. The closeness she once enjoyed was gone. Ejiro, though hardworking and successful, had not discovered her greatest flaw. One day at her fashion shop, a young man named Jeremy parked a Range Rover outside and walked in. He ordered 10 outfits. Judging by his appearance, Ejiro assumed the clothes were for a sugar mommy or an older woman. Jeremy noticed her expression and smiled, explaining that the outfits were for his mother and his aunt. Embarrassed, Ejiro brushed it off and focused on her business. Jeremy admired her work ethic and confidence. He was an architect, successful, disciplined and humble. He took her number and they began talking. Not long after, Ejiro fell deeply in love. He was everything she admired: God-fearing, handsome, hardworking and kind. Yet she was confused. She had never loved a man this way before. The only deep attachment she had ever known was her brother. As she tried to resist, the feelings only grew stronger. Ejiro began keeping late nights, something Frank noticed but ignored. His only focus was reconciling with his wife. Within weeks, Ejiro became deeply attached to Jeremy. After just 1 month, he proposed to her in a beautiful, unforgettable way. She said yes without hesitation. She became extremely protective of him. When she met Jeremy's family, they welcomed her warmly, but she noticed that one of Jeremy's siblings was unusually close to him. It made her uncomfortable. She spoke to Jeremy and he reassured her that boundaries existed and there was nothing to fear. That reassurance hit her deeply. Suddenly, she understood the pain she had caused her brother's wife. Overwhelmed with guilt, Ejiro sought out Ijeoma. She apologized repeatedly, admitting her ignorance and cruelty. She said she did not expect forgiveness but begged that Frank be given a second chance. She cried, pleaded, and brought friends and family to support her plea. Ijeoma, being human, eventually forgave Ejiro. She said she could not return to the marriage without first forgiving her. Ejiro returned to Frank and apologized sincerely. She admitted that she misunderstood the meaning of blood is thicker than water and took it to a destructive extreme. Frank forgave her. Together, Frank and Ejiro went to see Ijeoma early one morning. When she saw how broken Frank had become, her heart softened. They all cried. The children joined, hugging their parents and saying they missed their father but would never allow anyone mistreat their mother again. Frank promised he would never fail her again. They talked, they healed. She agreed to return home. Ejiro had already moved out and gotten her own place. She apologized to everyone, including the children. That morning, they shared breakfast together and returned home. 2 months later, Ejiro married Jeremy. A year later, she gave birth to beautiful twin girls. One night, Ijeoma had a dream that Ejiro was coming back to live with them. She woke up scared. Immediately, her phone rang. It was Ejiro. Ijeoma's heart skipped. She was trying to process the dream and the call. She was confused. She stayed quiet. Ejiro spoke. Hello? Good morning, Sisi. She said she was calling to say she was only visiting for the afternoon with the kids. Relieved, Ijeoma laughed and welcomed her warmly. And that was the end of the storm. Love without boundaries can become destructive. Family bonds are precious, but marriage requires respect, protection, and clear limits. When boundaries are ignored, even the strongest relationships can be broken. True love is not about possession or competition, but about understanding roles, respecting spaces, and choosing peace. When people learn accountability, humility, and forgiveness, broken homes can still be healed, but not without painful lessons. If this story touched your heart, taught you something, or reminded you of someone, don't just scroll away. Subscribe to this channel for more powerful emotional and life-changing stories like this. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and let me know in the comments what would you have done in Ijeoma's place.